Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new I Don't Work Here Lady stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first story is titled Frickin' Lasers. I do work here, lady, but you're not where you think you are. For around 10 years I worked for a laser tag company. It was fun place to work and attracted underachievers that would stay for a long time. Pay was okay, hours were flexible, and with myself being the middle point, it went from one group of friends working together to another. An issue arose when another company opened up on other side of town. My manager at the time left to go other place, with most of the other staff being made up of members and familiar faces from my place. This led to problems. The other place seemed to do pretty well for a year or so, then we started hearing things. Customers turning up for kids' parties and nobody being there, major issues with timings, overbookings, etc. One story even involved a guy involved in the company shooting a kid with an airsoft gun. This all happened a few years ago now, so before I heard the phrase, a Karen, but this is the only word that suits this person who comes bounding up our stairs one day. My customer service spider senses are a-tingling, her walk and then her face let me know I'm in for a bad time. Where can we set up? Okay madam, if I can take the name of your booking we'll get you guys organized. Right, I'm afraid we don't have anyone booked in under that name. This is where the fun started. The group who were actually booked in start to arrive. I gesture to my colleague that he should take the lead as I'm gonna be dealing with Karen. I manage to herd her away from desk and into a side room, where she goes off. This is FG ridiculous. I made my booking with mentions someone from other place, and now you're telling me you don't have my FG booking. My kids and all our food are outside. You will fix this now. So I have a particular tone for dealing with rude customers I've termed as aggressively polite, so I look her dead in the eyes and say, "Madam, you have made your booking with Darkwing. We are Best Laser, two totally different companies." To my utter joy, she refuses to believe this and continues to berate me and insist we host her kids' party. We must be same company. How would I know the other place's staff names if we weren't same company, etc. When she's in full flow, I open the door so everyone in reception area can hear us. I look and realize it's an older group rather than kids who are there, so I raise my voice. "Madam, listen. If you walked into McDonald's and they got your order wrong, you wouldn't walk into Burger King and expect a refund, would you? Now duck off." The next story is titled, Not only do I not work here, but neither does anyone else. A bit of background, my house used to be the village post office, and, when I say used to be, I mean over 20 years ago. We bought the property 10 years ago, by which time it had been totally converted, and no longer resembles a post office in any shape or form. The post office is now slightly further down the street, in a building that has a huge post office sign on the front, and looks nothing like my house, different size, color, everything. My front door opens straight into the kitchen, and is rarely locked. It's a small village, and I seem to run some sort of drop-in center for my kids' friends. I was sitting eating dinner this evening with my kids, when the front door opened, and in walked a lady. Me, "Hey, can I help you with something?" As I walked towards her, forcing her backwards through the open door. Yes, I have a parcel here to send, as she tries to duck round the side of me to get in. Me, pardon? You've got a parcel? Yes, it's to be delivered tomorrow. Me, well, you'd be best taking it to the post office then, as I almost physically push her out of the door onto the street. Well, obviously, that's why I'm here. At which point the light bulb in my head switches on. Me, I'm sorry, this isn't the post office anymore, hasn't been for a long time, the post office is a few doors down that way. Yes, very funny. Now, could you actually do what you're being paid for, and allow me to send my parcel? Me, yes, if you go to the post office, which is just down there, pointing, I'm sure they'll send your parcel for you. Now, I'm going to return to my children to finish eating my dinner. And I walked inside, closed, and locked the door, while listening to her having a strop outside. By all accounts, she found the post office, sent her parcel, and lodged a formal complaint against me, which gave the post office staff some entertainment for the afternoon. I'm really unsure as to what she was thinking. She's not from the village, as I say, it's a small village, and she walked into what is obviously a house, with a family sitting at the table eating when she walked in. Did she think I'd hidden the post office counter behind the fridge or something? My husband keeps wandering into the kitchen, asking me for stamps, or envelopes, or various other post office type things. The next story is titled, Lady Tries to Get in My Car While I'm Trying to Parallel Park. A couple years ago, I was back in my hometown after being gone a few years interviewing for a new job. I love the city I'm from, and I had deliberately planned to be there for my birthday weekend so I could spend some time in some of my old haunts. I decided one day I would stop by the locally owned coffee shop where I used to spend hours consuming coffee and free Wi-Fi, catch up on old times. Now, the coffee shop is located along a very busy 4-lane street. During off-peak hours, though, it's legal to parallel park in the lanes closest to the sidewalk. I have always hated parallel parking, but I decide it's easier than waiting for a spot to open up in the very small parking lot in the alley behind the coffee shop. I luck out, and there's an open spot at the very end of the road, so I just need to pull in, but it always makes me nervous pulling in because of how busy the road is, and, when I get nervous, I get worse at parallel parking. So I pull up and start backing into the space, and I think I'm doing okay when suddenly my back door flies open in the middle of me straightening up my car. A middle-aged woman just starts picking up a bunch of bags and trying to stack them in my back seat. The woman just starts trying to load her stuff in my back seat. Confused, and still halfway in the road, I ask her, "May I help you, ma'am?" She replies, "No, I just need to get all my stuff in and then I'll be ready to go." I still haven't caught on yet, and I'm like, "Why do you need to load your stuff in my car? Where are you going?" "Well, I need to get the stuff in the car so you can take me to location." I think I suddenly realize what's gone on. "Ma'am, I'm not an Uber driver," I say, "I'm trying to park so I can go in the coffee shop." Now, keep in mind, at the time I was driving up a 2011 Chevy Malibu that's seen better days, a couple dents, a smashed front end. This is on top of the fact that I'm pretty messy in cars and my entire backseat was filled with stuff from work and garbage. It wouldn't have passed the inspection if I wanted to be an Uber driver. I checked once when I was desperate for ways to make money. On top of that, there's no indication on my car that I'm an Uber driver and I'm literally trying to parallel park my car. Surprised, she stood up, and her actual driver was on the side street just in front of us trying to flag her down. It was at that moment she finally realized what was going on. "Oh, well, never mind then," she said as she took all her stuff back out of my car and marched over to her actual Uber driver as I finally finished parallel parking. The next story is titled, Not My Patient. Some years ago, when I recently got hired in my current hospital and was assigned to the I am a GP general practitioner, I had an encounter with a woman who refused to understand that not any person with a scrub and a white coat can treat a patient. To give you an idea of the setting, the observation unit was a giant square room with around 20 beds in total, separated by curtains. In the middle was the main counter where me and another doctor had our computers alongside the whole nursery team. GPs like me were in charge of patients that have not been hospitalized or being treated by another service. Nevertheless, because our unit had the most amount of beds, it was not uncommon that some patients who were not our responsibility were assigned one till they could go to the correct unit. It was 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Me and my coworker had just ended our round and were updating the medical records when a woman, let's call her Louisa, came to the counter. "Excuse me, you didn't check my dad and we have been here for 2 hours." Me, I'm sorry, what's the bed number please? 109. Me, let me see in the system. "Oh, I get it, sorry ma'am, but it says here your father is being treated by the internal medicine group. I will call them to see when are they coming." Thanks. I ask one of the nurses if she can call the internists to tell them they have a pending evaluation in our unit and then continue with my work. 20 minutes later Louisa comes again asking if I could see her dad. Me, is there something wrong? If a patient in my unit decompensated, I could treat him even if I was not his assigned doctor. No, he is fine, but no one has come to see him. Me, I will try again. This time I personally call the IM office and tell an internist about the patient in the 109. He says he will be there after finishing floor duty. To make the story short, for the next 4 hours I have Louisa coming over and over every 20 minutes to see if I could attend her dad. I repeatedly told her no and tried to contact his doctor multiple times by calling, sending a nurse and even going to the IM office myself, only to be rebuffed cause they were busy. I think both Louisa and I were in our last nerves when the final clash occurred. 12 o'clock and is lunchtime for me, so I got up from the counter and was midway to the exit door when Louisa jumped in front of me, like a literal jump. It was quite hilarious in retrospective. L, where are you going? Me, lunch? L, you can't go, no one has seen my dad. Me, ma'am, I already told you a dozen times that he is not my patient. I have tried multiple times to get his doctor here, but he won't come. I can't do anything else. L, then why the duck are you here if you can do crap for someone sick? He is going to die because you are just lazy. Me, that's not what's happening, I don't even know what your dad has. I knew the main diagnosis, but not all that could be attached. L, see. You are useless, that's why health is so screwed, useless doctors like you stealing our money and doing nothing. Me, listen woman, you don't have to be. L, do something or I will sue you. Me, fine, but SHUP up for God's sake. This may not sound serious, but by treating a patient's family like that I could have been in a very, very big problem. We are taught to be tolerant to the maximum point, and even then, exploding like that is not good. Also, keep in mind that all the shouting had attracted a lot of attention and at least 10 or more people saw the scene. That would be a fun talk to hour. Louisa was as shocked as I was, but I decided to take the opportunity to tell her to follow me and she complied with no more shouting. I guided her to the IM office and literally shoved her inside, telling her they were the guys she needed to talk to. According to the grapevine, cough the nurse's cough, it was like if had thrown a hungry coyote in the henhouse. Total chaos. After eating something and calming myself down, I came back to my workplace and surprisingly enough, Louisa was there waiting for me so she could apologize. We both understood the situation has been very stressful for the both of us and it got out of our hands. No complaints were made and luckily no one else reported me, so my indiscretion was luckily forgotten before it went higher up. Her father was moved to the IM floor, so after that I never saw her again, so you could say this was the happy ending of this long story. The next story is titled Costume Accosting. It's my day off, my husband is at work, and my mum has the kids, obviously a fantastic time to get some booze and do some crafts. I had an idea that I might do a cosplay-worthy upgrade on a plain mask I had, so I headed to the large chain craft store, not the one that has dirty relic dealings and is full of nonsense. Now, I did get dressed this morning, but my pants are like a half step up from pajamas and I'm wearing a fuchsia-colored top and have my purse and a shopping basket. I looked like a raggedy mum, not an employee. I'm browsing through leather pieces and hear some people at the end of the aisle, but pay no attention to them. I hear a woman say, well, let's ask that one, and again, I don't really pay attention until I get the semi-rude, excuse me? And I look over and see large mum and large child. I say hello, because this is Minnesota and I'm fairly polite. She says, we were told that you have a cosplay aisle here. They said it was aisle 19, but it's not. Where is it? I'm racking my brain because I shop there fairly often and have never seen a cosplay aisle, and TBHM having one would make my life so much easier. I shrugged and stated that I did not know of a cosplay aisle and went back to my browsing while she stared at me for a few seconds before asking if I was sure. No, lady. I totally lied and I'm secretly the cosplay bridge troll that must be asked the same question thrice before I tell you. I repeated that I did not know of a cosplay aisle existing, or where one might be. Evidently watching me touch leather all creepily was boring, so they left the aisle, hopefully to ask an actual employee. Pretty mellow compared to some stories on here, but it left me befuddled. The next story is titled, I do work here, but here isn't where you think it is, sir. I'm not sure if this counts as a pure, I don't work here, lady story, as the jerk in question was actually a guy, and technically, I did work there. It's just that there wasn't the place he thought it was. This happened some years ago, but after hearing so many other people's stories I thought it would be fun to share my own. So let me preface this by saying that I don't work in customer service. I have a technical computer job, and the social skills of my entire team combined probably almost add up to those of one normal person. And yes, I'm including myself in that number. So not only are we not supposed to talk to customers, but the company would actually prefer we stay as far away from them as possible. They even hide us in a dark corner away from everyone else to avoid someone accidentally wandering into our cubicle block and having a confusing, awkward, social experience. We generally don't talk to a lot of people outside of our team and a few other teams that we all know really well. I'm not saying we were mean, just your usual quirky computer nerds. I do usually try to be helpful to people if I can be, as long as they show even the smallest bit of respect in return. I did have a phone assigned to me, but it was essentially vestigial, because no one had used phones to communicate with our team for years. They either walked over to talk to us or they emailed or pinged us on the office messaging system. In all my time working for that company, I had never actually heard my phone ring, up until that day. So when I heard a strange clanging sound, I actually looked around to try to figure out where it was coming from before realizing it was being emitted from the dark, forgotten corner of my desk where that useless phone was taking up space. I was so confused, because for the life of me I couldn't think of anyone who would actually call me. My coworkers looked over to see what was going on, and we exchanged perplexed looks. Tentatively, I picked it up. RG equals rude guy. Me, hello? The man on the other end already sounded escalated, but like he was trying to keep it together, at least a little. RG, you guys need to release the hold you have on my mother's estate, right now. This only added to my confusion, because the company I worked for didn't deal, in any way, shape, or form with real estate. Me, excuse me? I think you have the wrong number. RG, is this, says my number. I'm even more confused, now, because I can't figure out why he'd have my number. Me, yes, but we don't deal in property. We don't put liens on people's estates. Maybe you copied the number for the place you're looking for down wrong? RG, I need to speak to Sally. Does she still work there? I forget what name he actually said, so she's now dubbed Sally. Me, no one by that name works here. RG, sounding more angry, now, listen, last time I spoke to you guys I spoke to Sally, and she gave me this number. If she doesn't work there anymore, then I need to speak to someone who can release my mother's estate. Me, we've never had anyone named Sally here. Where exactly is it that you think you're calling? RG, you know where I'm calling. This is insert company name, and I don't appreciate being jerked around. It suddenly clicked for me what had happened. The company he named rents space in the same building that we do, but is a completely separate entity. In a twist of absolute bureaucratic nonsense, phone numbers are assigned by the building, not the companies that rent space there. When one number is no longer being used, the building reassigns it to the next person who needs it, even if they work in a completely different company. Because we'd recently expanded the amount of space we were renting, my team had been reassigned cubicle spots to give another team room to expand. This somehow had resulted in all of us getting assigned new phones and new phone numbers, and apparently I had gotten Sally's old number. I also remembered hearing from someone who did work at that company that they sometimes put liens on properties of people if they owed them a lot of money. I'm not sure exactly how this worked and why they were able to do that. I only vaguely remembered hearing about it in casual chit-chat quite a while ago. Naturally, I tried to explain to the man what I'd thought had happened. I figured once he understood the mix-up he would realize his mistake, and just call the company he needed to speak to. Nope. He listened to about half my explanation, before just combusting into a new bout of senseless rage. RG, that makes no sense. If you have this number you have to work for that company. So help me get this lien off my mother's estate. In his defense, the way the building shuffled numbers around was objectively stupid. Something like this was inevitable if they were assigning numbers that had once belonged to one company to other companies. I completely understand why he was confused. What I didn't understand, however, was how stubborn and rude he was getting. Me, I can't help you. You have to get a hold of company name. RG, just look my mother's name up in your database. You can see everything Sally wrote about our last conversation. Me, I don't have access to company names database, because I don't work for them. I can't look her up. The guy had had a seething tone for some while now, and I'm pretty sure if he could punch me through the phone, he would have. But he went worryingly quiet a moment, and I could practically hear the gears in his head grinding. RG, do you work at, says the address of the building? When he said the address, he didn't include the suite number, which is how you distinguish one company address from another. So technically, yes, I did work at the address, he said. Me, yes, but... RG, see. His voice sounded like he'd just won the entitled douchebag lottery. You do work there. So help me. I was pretty irritated at this point, because if he'd been listening to me he would understand that I didn't actually work for the company he was trying to get a hold of by now. Me, I work in the same building, but I don't work for that company. This building hosts a lot of different companies. We're not connected, I can't help you, not won't, can't. This is when he went full Karen. Gee, this is the worst customer service I've ever had. Let me talk to your manager. Me, no. Gee, I couldn't see him, but I was picturing him with a stunned Pikachu face, just then. No. First, I have no obligation to work with this guy. He's not even a customer of our company. And even if he was, I have no responsibility to work with customers. In fact, my boss would consider it a massive waste of my time and would get irritated if I did. Second, I was doing him a massive favor. My boss was a no-nonsense, tough as nails, no soft edges kind of a woman, not at all known for being delicate with people's feelings. She would definitely have ripped him a new one, and may have even made him cry. She was good at that. Getting her involved would have definitely been a mistake. If anything, I was protecting him by not letting him talk to her. But of course, he didn't get that. Gee, what's your full name? I want to report you to corporate. I was done with this bullcrap. There was literally nothing I could do to help him, and he'd been rude to me from the start. Me, listen. If you had an issue with something you bought at Walmart, would you go to Target to solve the problem? Because that's the equivalent of what you're doing. You're going to the wrong company to fix your issue. I don't work at company name, I don't have access to their database, there's literally nothing I can do for you because you're speaking to the wrong company. I think the analogy helped, because he actually seemed to stop and think for a minute. I even got a little tickle of hope that maybe I'd gotten through to him. Gee, then give me the number for that other company. Me, unfortunately, I don't have it. You'll have to look it up. Gee, how? It was my turn for the surprised Pikachu face. Me, on the internet? Gee, look it up for me. If you do it, you'll be able to find a special direct line or something, right? Me. Google works the same for me as it does for you, sir. At this point I hear a strangled hacking sound behind me, and turn around to see my coworkers fighting back laughter to the point of tears. Wonderful. Thanks, guys. It was at this point that this rude jerk seemed to have thought himself back out of all of the progress we'd made so far. Gee, you can't just refuse to help me, or to let me talk to your manager. You need to look my mum up in your database. If you hadn't tried to get out of helping me, we could be done by now. Me, I still don't work for company name. That hasn't changed in the last couple of minutes. He started to curse at me, curse my gender, and call me all sorts of foul names at that point. So I hung up on him. I have no time for jerks. If he'd been less of a bully, I might have Googled the company number for him. After all, I was sitting at a computer. But he chose to try to boss me around, belittle me, and to swear at me. So all he got was hung up on. Within seconds, though, the phone rang again. So I picked it up, and hung up again. When it started ringing the next time, I hung up, but left the receiver off the hook. That way he could call back to his little heart's content, and I didn't have to deal with his bullying tactics. After my colleagues got a good laugh out of the whole ordeal, we all went back to work. I quickly got wrapped up in a project for about an hour, and after finishing it, I felt like the rude guy was probably done repeatedly speed dialing my number, so I put the phone back. It rang. Immediately. My dude was determined. So I answered, hung up, and left my phone off the hook for the rest of the day. Just to be safe, I kept it off the hook for the whole rest of the next day, as well. And thankfully, I didn't hear from the dude again. Hopefully he figured out how to use Google to find the phone number he needed. Although if he did, I feel bad for the other company. I like to imagine he reported me to someone over there only to be told that I do, in fact, not work for them. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comment.